All the wisdom and wellness we need and all the advice we can get from these incredible women is what we're really looking for. And big ups to them, Jenny. Yeah.
When someone says, not another woman's event, you tell them, that's how my life continues to change.
Yeah. Life is bigger than just trying to eat. Life is bigger than just trying to make the most money. Imali khona, money is in abundance. Look at the trees. The trees don't compete for more leaves. They are secure in their own leaves. They're secure in their abundance.
And take what you've learned here today to build your own personal brand and to find a niche or a gap in your corporate spaces, in your entrepreneurial ventures to make a difference.
But you have to be willing to know which battles are worth fighting and which battles you can really let go of.
So you always have to plan. I have learned that planning is my biggest pillar. And underneath that, budgeting. For the months that are dry, budgeting.
And be genuine and clear about this is what we have and it's not going to be bigger than this.
And no is a full sentence. So yes, your family is going to be cross with you. The family member is going to block you. They'll unblock you later. You see what I'm saying? That it's going to happen. It's a tough conversation to have, but I need you to do it. Because you not only, yes, it may seem selfish in the short run, because you're doing it for yourself and your direct family, but it's also for your extended family in the long run.
Hello Agenda Woman Tribe and welcome to another video on the Agenda Woman channel. As promised, today's video is going to be a book review for Soar by T.D. Jakes. It's so weird. I thought this was gonna be a bigger size than what this actually is. I got this on Take a Lot. I started reading the book digitally on my laptop, and over time I decided to get the physical copy, and then I got the audio version of the book as well. So I'm gonna give you a review on the book. I'm going to chat a little bit about who I believe the target audience is for the book. I'm going to chat about the structure, and then I'm going to give you some insight on a part that I found was potentially beneficial, maybe for someone who's interested in reading the book. So first things first, who can benefit from this book? I think if you are a person that you're not an entrepreneur yet and you're thinking about getting into entrepreneurship, wanting to get almost like an overview of what entrepreneurship really looks like, I think this book will be beneficial. It will help you think through some very important questions which I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't take into consideration when they start businesses. I think if you are a survivalist business that doesn't have operations and systems currently, this book will be beneficial by taking you through some really important questions you need to ask yourself about your business, where you want to take it. Do you want to remain a survivalist business and just have the business feed you? Or do you want to have employees, and how you kind of navigate building into that space? If you are a person that has a side hustle, maybe the side hustle is working and now you're thinking about really structuring the side hustle into a business, this book can be beneficial for you. When I picked up the book, I thought it was going to be for an entrepreneur who has been in business for a very long time, but maybe is starting to look at how to scale their business, but it's absolutely not that. If you're an entrepreneur that is quite experienced, and maybe you want to go back to basics and reassess how you've structured your business, then maybe you can pick up the book. But if you're an entrepreneur that is looking to scale their business, I think a book like 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel can be more beneficial than this book. So really, not a book for someone who wants to scale their business, but essential for a person thinking through entrepreneurship, thinking about what questions they should be asking themselves in order to get into being an entrepreneur. The book actually has 4 parts, and the first part is called Expand Your Vision. I found it dragged a bit, and yes, it spoke about thinking through your vision. Why do you want to have the business? Which I think can be important if you need to really get into maybe potentially writing a business plan down, whether it's a 1-pager or it's a long business plan. But I really found that that part of the book dragged. I stayed on the book because I was curious about what else was going to come after that part. But yeah, the first 3 chapters for me dragged a bit. And then the second part of the book is called Building Your Wings. I found this the most beneficial because it started to get into structures, operations, and that's where you actually get a list of some fundamental questions you need to ask yourself if you want to get into entrepreneurship. The third part of the book is called Clear Your Clouds. I felt like it was just an extension of the second part. They could have made it 3 parts and had the first part being about the vision and the second part being really about the systems and how you need to think about that. But then they added the part that is called Clear the Clouds, and I wasn't sure if it really needed to be a separate part on its own. And then the fourth part is called Soar to New Heights. I enjoyed that. I have to be honest, I really enjoyed that, maybe because that's when they also got into marketing and how it can be beneficial to your business. And there's some really important insights there, which I think quite powerful, especially for small entrepreneurs who normally don't invest a lot of their money in marketing. I think the way that he spoke about marketing was definitely, I think, the approach that the first world countries take to marketing, particularly Americans, and we all know how well marketed the country is. And I don't think we do enough of that as South African entrepreneurs. I find that Ghanaian female entrepreneurs do that very well. So that particular part was quite impactful even for me in reminding me about the importance of spending time thinking through marketing. I think a lot of what we do is we get these great ideas, we get moving, but we don't really spend a lot of time on planning. I think this book, if you're at the beginning or you've just started your business and you didn't really spend time on thinking through the plan, this book will definitely be beneficial for you. So yeah, 4 parts, which I think could have been 3. The second part was quite good. The third part is what I enjoyed just from an inspiration point of view and some of the things that I think it reminded me, even as an entrepreneur, working with other smaller entrepreneurs. The parts that I think if you don't have a lot of time to go through the entire book, a place where you can go in the book where you'll get a lot of the, I guess, insights for planning and thinking through the questions that you need to be asking yourself in order to establish if you're ready to be an entrepreneur, or whether your business has really spent time thinking through what it is that you offer your consumer. Of course, the entire book has bits and pieces of information and inspiration that is beneficial if you read the entire book. But if you really just want to zone in and ask the question, is my business plan well thought out? Is there anything I'm missing in my business plan? Is there anything I need to better understand before I get into entrepreneurship? I think for me, chapter 5 is the place where you can go. And what the questions, or rather, how the questions have been structured is thinking through, I guess it's 6 parts when you read the questions, but for me, it's fundamentally 5 parts that you need to be focused on and asking fundamental questions. And the first area is the overview of your mission, which I believe is the executive summary. And there's about 3 questions that you need to think about when you're in that area, and that is where you would have information about your business. You would have mostly the what question whilst touching on the who and why, and you would also need to be very direct in that segment and tightly focused. So you don't go into too much detail, but you just give an overview of what this business concept is, where it's going to live, who it's going to target, and what it's about. The second part that is explored in chapter 5 is the atmospheric conditions. So there's a lot of metaphors that are used that focus on flying, you know, I guess in a way that is gimmicky to the name of the book being Soar. So stay with me. The atmospheric conditions speak to mostly the market that you're going to be operating in. So that would be questions like that speak to your chosen business sector and the correct conditions to fly or to operate, as well as answering the where questions whilst touching on the who and when. The third part is going to be the market analysis, which I feel is very similar to atmospheric conditions. And when you are assessing that part of the environment, you want to think about the habits and histories of the consumers and the competition in the space that you want to get into. The fourth part is operational logistics, which is the how the business works. And there you want to get into the nitty-gritties of the how questions. You want to think through how you would need to, if for instance you have a product, how you would need to think about scheduling, design, production, delivery, distribution points of sale, as well as really understanding what the system is going to be of getting from inquiry to delivering the service, for instance, if you are a service business, or delivering the product if you are a product-based business. I think another thing that people take for granted when you think about operations is the daily schedule. What is your day going to look like? If you're starting out on your own, what are the fundamental areas you're going to need to focus on? I can tell you, for instance, with me, my week is structured into different activities. So what I do on Monday is focus on the admin. On Tuesday, I focus on business development. So following up with clients, following up on pitches, and thinking through who else I need to speak to about my business. On Wednesday, I focus on projects that are already active. On Thursday, I focus mostly on creative work. So thinking through maybe what I want to be sharing on the podcast or what I'm going to be recording on YouTube. And Friday is mostly an inspiration day. So I decide on the day where I am directed. But I like to have a 4-hour work week and not overwhelm myself with really back-to-back activity and not getting a chance to create and always responding to some of the business needs all the time. The fifth part of the questioning that you need to go through when you're thinking about establishing your business is the financials. And when it comes to the financials, some of the line of questioning can be around startup requirements, where you're going to get the equipment if you need equipment, or the money that you need to get the operations going, right? The second part is drafting an income statement and making projections around where your revenue is going to come from, how quickly it's going to come, and that goes into cash flow, what you're going to be spending on, what your operational costs are going to look like. So really, I think it's one of the most important things you need to think about when you're a business, but sometimes the most intimidating, especially when you haven't operated in that sector. The final thing I would say is quite important, and that comes up in the book, particularly around the financials, is financial cycles. You know, which seasons are the busiest? How much money do you get in that season? Or how much you project you're going to get in the season when you're busy? How far can you plan with that cash that you maybe bring in during your the season where you are harvesting, or the cash cow is the most hottest ticket. It's like I said, I'm going to repeat this, it's very difficult to make these projections when you're at the beginning of your business, but I think it might be worthwhile to go and speak to someone who is in the business or has a similar business like yours, and just ask them questions like, when are you the busiest, and which part of the business is generating the most revenue. And of course, don't expect people to give you the blueprint to their businesses, but find ways to ask questions that are going to help you figure out how to navigate this part of your financial projections and thinking through what's going to help you really navigate some of the business challenges that will come, particularly when it comes to the finances. The last part of the questioning is called your destination, which I would think about as your key performance indicators. So the line of questioning when you think about your key performance indicators is going to be identifying some of the ways that you'll know your business has arrived at this destination. You can base this on profits, your growing customer base, you're expanding public awareness, for instance, or maybe enduring a particular period of phase. So you could say, if we've gone over 5 years, we feel confident that we can take on the next 5 years. You could say, if we've gone over the next 10 years, then we can take on another 10 years. This will help you know where you're going and assist you with making decisions about growth, product expansion, target marketing, and more. Knowing your destination will also help you figure out when you need to make changes to the business. Fundamentally, I think for me, chapter 5, exploring this kind of questioning, this kind of thinking, is going to be the chapter where you're going to focus, take out your pen and paper, write down business plan, and start to think about what the answers to these questions are going to be for your business. So my closing thoughts on the book, like I said, starts off very slow. The points feel like they're dragged. But I have to be conscious of the fact that I've internalized a lot of information. I go through a lot of business books. So maybe that's why I felt like that when I was reading the beginning of the book. I think, I love TD Jakes. I listen to a lot of his sermons and he's extremely inspirational, but I think you'd be asking a lot if you think this book is going to help you scale as a business. For instance, if you are already an established business, but if you're not an established business, this is a great guide to getting into entrepreneurship and thinking through some of the fundamental questions that you need to ask yourself about entrepreneurship. It's a basic business book, and I think it has all the basic stuff you need to think about, the foundation that you need to lay. Like I said, I also explored the audio version of the book. That was quite disappointing, and the reason is because it's not narrated by TD Jakes. I think that was a mistake when you think about the fact that his voice is really popular. We're all very familiar with the way that he, his tone and the way that he thinks through his processing. Listening to someone read the book who's not TD Jakes it's not a vibe. It really threw me off at the beginning, but because I was fundamentally wanting to listen to the book, take notes so that I can prepare for this review, it worked. I got to the end of the book and I actually did enjoy the end more than the beginning. So that is my review of the book Soar by TD Jakes. The next book that I'm going to be reviewing is called The One Thing by Gary Keller. If you are a person that struggles with pursuing big dreams, and that sounds minute, right? It's like, why would you not pursue big dreams? Fundamentally, it could be things like struggling with imposter syndrome. The One Thing helps you come back into your vision and think very narrowly about committing to one ideology around how you want to be known, what business you want to explore, and who you want to be for your market or consumer. So yes, it is another business book. I'm exploring a lot of things around business as my business grows. So I am focusing a lot of my attention on business books. Please remind me, and so that I make sure that my third book is actually maybe a spiritual book or a book that focuses on wellness. But I'm not gonna lie, my next book is going to be The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's a very powerful book when you are established, you're thinking about pivoting, you are at a point where your business is challenging and you start to come up with other ideas that are very different from what you fundamentally had as your initial vision. It brings you back to your vision. It helps you fast forward, champion through, propel your vision from where it is to the next place, because it really just helps you focus. So if you want to buy that book, I'm going to link below to where you can get the book. I'm also going to link Soar by TD Jakes below if you haven't read it and you're coming to the review because you are thinking about reading it. I'm really excited about this part of the channel. I read a lot of books, and actually reviewing them makes me deep dive a little bit more and not be casual around reading these books. Thank you if you got to the end of this video. Let me know what else you would want me to include when I do my book reviews. And if you have read Soar, let me know what you thought of the book, whether it was digital or an actual hard copy of the book, or it was the audio version. I'm really curious to hear what the experience was like for you.